Hello, viewer, and welcome to Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. And we are again at the end of the year. 2021 is coming to a close. What a year it's been, and the last 2 years have definitely not been standard in many ways, but here we are. 2021 has come, or is coming to an end, and would want to just have a time of looking back and seeing what has gone on. And there is no better person to bring us that perspective and to lead us in that conversation than the gentleman who is behind the Become Your Excellency movement. And that is Reverend Joseph Obwanda, who comes to us from the Methodist Church of Kenya. He also comes to us from Kemu, the university. He is the chaplain of the Nairobi campus, and he loves life and also guides many people on how to do a good life. And so, Rev, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. For a moment, I was wondering who you're talking about.
No, and just to tell you that he's also an author of great books, and we have Become Your Excellency, a great book, Time Valuation, also a great book, Growth Reset, also a great book. So we have a really endowed mind with us on this Spotlight edition. Welcome.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, we had to wait for the end of the year. You know?
I'm honored. The right timing, I guess.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And keep, your work is really good.
By God's grace,
we really are blessed by your forums, the excellency forums that you offer. And please just tell us a little bit about the last one that you did.
Yeah.
The one of the imposter syndrome.
Right.
Yes.
That's an amazing forum. This year we have been very intentional as we celebrate the 10th year of passing the message of excellency. We hold that everybody is an excellency in their own right, and I'm glad that you're also a graduate of the Excellency Master Course.
Very memorable lesson.
I salute you. And so every month we have been holding a session where we look at concepts that we think are pertinent to helping people to release the best that God has made them to be. And the last session we did, actually the second last session, the 11th edition in November, we did on a concept of imposter syndrome. Looking at the whole idea of and how do you affirm yourself? Because many people, they self-deplete. They don't believe that they deserve the success and the victories and the blessings that God has endowed them with. And so therefore they work against themselves. So you feel like, as the word suggests, you are an imposter or you are a pretender to that which you really are. So other people look up to you, they talk to you, they tell you, oh, Reverend Furi, you are a great author, you are a great pastor, you are a great husband and father. But you are thinking, who are you talking about? You know, just like almost a moment ago, I was wondering, who are you talking about when you're introducing me? And that's an existential challenge. You never get to really overcome that. At every point in time, you'll be facing those challenges where you feel like you are not deserving what you have. And so that was a really amazing session. I hosted a friend, Dr. Chow, and she really shared her experiences in that and gave some very instructional aspects to it. Yeah.
You know, I think that's even a very good starting point for our conversation, because you look at the year gone by and you compare, you look at yourself and ask yourself, I've had 12 months. Have I done justice to these 12 months? Have I lived fully? Have I lived reluctantly? Could I have suppressed myself at some points? And sometimes you look back with that thought of, I am not so sure. So most of us end the year at a point of reluctance, at a point of we're not so certain. We can't make a statement and say, I did it. Can you speak to that?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look back, you also feel like the time is wasted. However, as I post it in my book, Time Valuation, that time is an index of value, right? so that we ask ourselves, what are the value moments? What are the value engagements? What were the value adds, all right, vis-a-vis just looking at the continuum of periods. So it's not time management, it's time valuation. You may have wanted to do 50 things, but maybe you did 5 or 10. And those were the critical value add. And therefore, you don't need to beat yourself up. You need to look at, appreciate. We need to ask positive questions rather than questions that disempower us. Rather than asking, what have I not achieved? Ask yourself, what have I achieved? What have I lost? What have you gained? You know, so you start being appreciative. Look at, by God's grace, you have ended the year. So that's by itself is a value add. You can count that this year, despite the challenges that were there are certain valuables, there are certain indications of how you invested your time. So that there's no sense of regret, there's no sense of waste. There's definitely something. So I suggest the first thing is discover. Have a conversation with yourself and find a discovery. What are your lived positive experiences? And that should kind of be on the front of your mind. And that keeps energizing you even as you prepare for the new year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, the part of don't beat yourself up.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this has been also equally a strange year.
Yeah.
Because there are some times when we have what we can call an external environment where it really depends more on you. Like we had things are normal, the economy is normal,
Yeah.
the day-to-days are normal, the politics are in a way where they are supposed to be and all that. But we have had another year, yet another year where the external environment has been very hostile, such that even if I want to do a lot, I'm limited because there's a curfew. You know,
Yes.
I'm limited because I have to wear a mask. I'm limited because crowds can't gather.
Right.
So it's a very reversed environment whereby it doesn't so much depend on our internal will, but the external environment is very limiting. Perspective give us on this.
I mean, just some few years back, and with all respect, the world and the globe was celebrating that human beings are unlimited. Now we have realized human beings are limited. We have our limitations. And it takes humility to appreciate that you are only responsible for what you're responsible. Yeah? You can't, like the late Steve Covey talked about in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he posits that there are 2 phases of life. There's 2 circles of life. There's circle of concern and there's circle of influence. Now, circle of concern are those things that, yes, you notice them, you take note of them, but you may not be able to do much about them even if you wanted. For example, right now, this pandemic, and there are certain circumstances that must prevail because of this pandemic, and you cannot do anything about it. So fighting that is like trying to fight weather. You can't do that. Now, the circle of influence, ask yourself, if there is this happening, in this arrangement, what am I able to do? What am I responsible of? And in your space, be responsible for what you're responsible for. For example, you can, in the illustration of the weather, all right? If it's raining, don't fight the weather. Dress warm, right? If there's curfew, right? Don't fight the government. Say, well, there's curfew, and there's reason to that. In my space, I will not be a victim. I will make mine work because, and even the churches were like, we are closed down. But there are churches which took advantage of that. They said, okay, what can we do in this? And they took advantage of the digital space and things moved. So what I'm saying is that, yes, it's been very uncharacteristic year. There's been a lot of, we've been in unfamiliar territory, but those were opportunities for us to really discover what at the basic, we call the minimalistic, what at the minimal, what is really what is about us and what works for us, and make that work and be authentic. I think we have come to really what counts most. Yeah.
And so it reaches a point where we are in shock about what's going on.
Yep.
But when we start coming to our senses, we begin to see things we can do that still are progressive, even in a very hostile environment.
Yeah.
Many people don't know how to evaluate a year. And so they drink it. They drink the end of the year. I mean, they spend weeks in pubs and because that's what they know. But I want to ask you, you can come from whatever angle in your life, including your pastor angle.
Yes.
With lots of drinking at the end of the year. Can you maybe speak to that? Is it after living a year with a lot of deliberation, and then you are ending the year when you have knocked off your conscience and you're staggering all over? Can you maybe shed some light on that?
I think I would call it scarcity mentality. Scarcity mentality says, I don't know when next I'll have an opportunity. So what I have, I better maximize and enjoy it or do the most I can with it, because you are more driven by the fear of loss. You're more driven by the fear or the need to prove things, and that the moment you're in that disposition where you're feeling like you want to prove that you have lived, really, it's really absurd, right? You have another year to live, God willing. And you have lived this year, and you know there are people under the circumstances where this year has been, there's been a lot of deaths. You really want to be more grateful and more responsible and more thankful. And acknowledge that if there's anything that has happened this year, negative especially, God is still the reason why the positive has happened. So thank God for the positive and be humble and be moderate and be considerate. That, because you can end up in the spirit of partying and spiting the year, or those people who say, now we want to prove the government wrong, or rather want to prove that we can enjoy, or we want to prove to God, if I would even stretch our imagination, and prove that we lived it. You didn't. It's God's mercies. You are not better than the person who didn't make it. And therefore, you don't want to tempt fate. You don't want... I give an illustration. A friend of mine told me somebody survived a road accident. He was hit by a matatu on Superhighway, Thika Road. And then, fortunately, he survived, and after several months, there was a traffic case, that the court case and whatever. So he had to go back to the site, the scene of accident, so they can help the police to reconstruct the story. So at that point, he starts explaining to the police what happened, how he was standing by the roadside, and then a matatu was coming from Thika. And then he says, you see, like the one coming, like this one, then I jumped in. Then he was hit. He didn't survive this time. So don't use your life, for example, when God has, by his mercies, helped you to survive the accident. There's been a lot of accidents. If you survived, some of us, we've survived COVID. We really want to realize life is short and you have no control of life. It's God's mercies. And so take it with the humility and responsibility. That's my thought.
Yeah, good thought there. And I sometimes imagine that people go like that wild way of partying and everything, because that's what their culture does.
Absolutely,
So
it has to do with
they're
culture.
Not thinking, they're just doing what they have seen others do. But we also would want to hear from you. What are some alternative ways that also make a lot of sense and are likely to be more helpful in terms of what we can call year-end rituals?
All right. I think the fact that we're talking of the end, it connotes the sense of it's an opportunity for reflection. It's an opportunity for evaluation. And you can do that in very practical ways. One, you need to be sober. I suspect you cannot do evaluation when you are not sober. So you need to be sober. You need to look at, one, I would think, what are your value indicators? Because what you're looking at when you're evaluating is like auditing. you're asking yourself, what are the things that add value or that are the index of value to me that I've been faithful to? So how much have you been faithful to your values? All right? And it could be your family, it could be your work, it could be your opportunities, it could be your health. Have you been faithful to those things? If those things were of value to you, how much time did you direct to them? How much energy did you direct to them? So in that evaluation, you become very practical because it's about you. Nobody's holding a gun on your head, and it's not an exam. So you have to be very honest with yourself. So in that sense, it will mean you need to create a quality time. If you want to have time in your house, you know, a day when you sit down and bring in, then secondly, you need to look at what are the variables. Whereas the variables are there marks, are there, call it goals that you had set, are there measurable indicators. It could be said you wanted to earn this much by the end of the year. You said you wanted to achieve this level of education by the end of the year. You wanted to visit these places, or you wanted to reconcile with somebody you've had beef with the whole year. So you look at specifics, because you don't just do it generally, specifics. And then you sit down, as you sit down, you look vis-a-vis your values, then the variables, the indicators of the same. And then you now ask, who are the people who are my accountability network or resource? Now, those people, you bring in them in that space. Because I'm trying to construct a space where now you bring in these people, you can have a family council, you can have a family day, you can have a retreat, you can have whatever you do. But all these people are coming in, not just for the party and for the fun part of it, is so that you are exposing yourself to them for the purposes of evaluation. You know you're using, because these people know you better than anybody else. It could be talking to or hanging out with an accountability mentor or a mentee or a peer. Like you and I now, we've had this conversation. We are looking back in our ear. And I think those helpful conversations are going to be very helpful. But most importantly is pick the lessons, all right? If you're evaluating your year, pick the lessons. And not in a self-depreciating manner. Pick the lessons, don't be too hard on yourself, but be very intentional so that you're saying, okay, these are my learnings, and with these learnings, I want to carry the learnings, the positive learnings with me into the new year, God willing. And with that, I think you are able to kind of say you're honest with yourself and you have reflected on your year. But ideally, the best way to me is you don't fire and then aim. You had aimed, now look at, did you fire at the right place? Because many people who are evaluating now, they're evaluating what they never intended. So it's like doing a job evaluation where there was no job description. It's not fair to the employee.
You know, when it's a very intense view there of taking time to reflect.
Absolutely.
Because you are facing yourself. But take the norms, for instance, the partying, the drinking, the wildlife. You're running away from yourself, actually. Instead of facing yourself, you're running away from yourself. And
it has to be very intentional and a focused. You have to be sober. You can't. That's the emphasis. You can't do this when you're distracted. You got to be very intentional and call yourself to a meeting. Yeah.
Okay. You know, and I just wanted to just push that a little bit, because there are many people who are watching right now, and they are at that time, and they can be able to see that they need an alternative way. But the cultural force is too much. It's calling them different directions. But they want to do this. They want to do what you've just suggested. Maybe you can create it for us, because it's more like, yes, I've agreed that I want to reflect, right? I have agreed I need to face my realities and do a scorecard, you know, and that. But where do I do it?
Okay.
Where? Give us maybe a way. Do I do it next to a river?
I like that.
Do I do it, you know,
I get you.
Where do I do it?
I mean, I really don't want to. I want.
You know, next to a river is like, hey, you know.
I know. Oh yeah.
A space of lots of reflection. Yes.
Allow me
or do I go to a forest in my village?
Oh, I know.
Just
by
get
the
lost
lakeside.
in the woods. And
all right.
By the lakeside, especially. Yeah.
I mean, work with what works for you, right? There are people who will go for a cruise. There are people who will take a road trip. What works for you, make it work, right? I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, but the principle is more profound than the pattern. The principle is you got to be sober. You got to create, you got to be intentional. It's like climbing a ladder. You can't climb a ladder while pocketing, right? You got to hold the rails. And so I'm suggesting that if it's going to be in your house, I mean, personally, I do it in my house, right? I just take time but let me stretch it further and say it this way, that I think if you have been actively living your life, right, which I know is a challenge, it's not going to be difficult because you're not meeting a stranger. You've been with you the whole year. What you have become, you have been becoming it. So it's a question of it's a question of my life. It's not per se analyzing, but it's synthesizing. So that analyzing is where you pick one component, my faith life, my family life, my work life, my financial life. Don't compartmentalize your life, synthesize it. Get one big, it's not the way they told us, don't be a jack of all trades. It's a lie. Have all the trades under the franchise name of Jack, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Trust you with your
get one
nice
big
words, yes.
one big basket and put all the eggs. They will be comfortable there. So I'm saying look at your life holistically. So it could be relationships. So you need to visit somebody. I mean, I really want to reflect on the quality of my relationship with my wife. So it would be maybe I want to take her out for dinner.
That's a scary point.
You get?
Because,
Yes.
you know, like some people are like, do I really want to hear the candid
scared.
analysis about what my husband has to say about me? You know, anyway.
See,
I get
the point
yes.
is, I'm speaking to where do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? When do you want to do it? That may be too prescriptive. I am saying that you have the principle and you have the values, you have the variables, and therefore you're asking, if it's, for example, in my faith life, then I may want to go to church and have a conversation with my pastor or my spiritual leader. Or I want to attend a service and just submit myself to God in His presence. If it's, say, it's my work, I want to evaluate my work. Some of us, we are doing performance contracts, so you want to meet with your supervisor and say, okay, so that time of the year, why don't we go through this, my performance? So the context is determined by the content. Yeah.
All right. No, I like the principle.
Yes,
That
the principle.
you have to be sober. That's
intentional.
important.
But I say it,
intentional. Yeah.
clarity plus intentionality equals productivity.
Okay.
You must be clear, you must be intentional, and the results will be a consequence.
All right.
Yeah.
And that's really countercultural.
Yeah, I know.
Because you are calling us to a place of reflecting, but the culture around us is in a place of noise, lots of noise. Now, having talked about reflection,
Yes.
then what would you say would be the place of celebration at the end of the year?
I mean, celebrations definitely, there's need for celebration. At the end of the year, you need to be asking yourself, what are you celebrating? You don't celebrate for the celebration's sake. You are celebrating something, and what you are celebrating is you are celebrating the value add, you are celebrating the mark of accomplishment of some sort, you are celebrating the learnings, you are celebrating arrival, you are celebrating the gifts and the blessings of each other, you are celebrating health. So there are many practical things. In short, I'm saying that you can't lack something to be thankful for. And the philosophy is, if you always you live the secret of thanksgiving is thanks living. So if you've not been living in celebration, now you want to be giving celebration, it becomes such a tedious process. And so I'm saying, you talked about culture. Let me take it to that again. We make our culture. It's not our culture that makes us. Right? So when we go somewhere where people are doing things different, we'll find ourselves adjusting to that because those people have decided to do that. Our culture is our conspiracy against ourselves. And so for as a Christian, and we are talking even talking from a Christian point of view, we are not just to be victims of culture or subculture. We are supposed to be supraculture.
Okay.
Supraculture says that we espouse ideals and values and virtues and things which everybody everywhere wants. So we cannot be talking of Luo culture, Kikuyu culture, Kalenjin culture, Pokot culture, Pokomo culture. This is how we do it. As a Christian, and even as a well-defaulted person, as an excellency, you oscillate, you come above that.
Okay.
And you say, I'm tapping into excellency is a supracultural concept. Yeah.
All right. There are people who, at this time of the year, emotions run very heavy because it's maybe the first Christmas without their mother. It's the first Christmas without their father. It's the first Christmas without their child. It's the first Christmas, I mean, it just rings bells of loss.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so tears are very close to their eyes, and everything just looks to be gray and dark. Can you maybe speak to those people?
Indeed, indeed. I know that's a reality. Some of us connect with that very personally. Yet we know that when God allows things to happen, we may judge God, and we may feel unfair. We may feel God's unfair. We may feel God does not make sense, in the words of James Dobson. However, I also look at whereas there is loss, there is a gain. Rather than looking at only what is gone, we ask ourselves, what have we gained? Those we love, those precious people we love, who have lived with us, when they leave, they don't go with everything. They leave us their precious memories. They leave us a legacy. And in a sense, as in our African understanding, they are still alive in our midst, in our worldview. But suffice to say that grief is a reality of life. Don't fight it, accept it, but in accepting it, accept that you could only be a steward. You are a steward of that person, a loved one, and the time you are with them, you did what you knew best to do. Don't regret, don't catch yourself in regret, don't be hard on yourself, because even if you could want to change anything now, you may not. But the lessons and the values and the memories that these people have left us makes the celebration worth it. We are celebrating that we had people. God entrusted us with people who became part of our lives and are part of our lives. So I would think, rather than looking at what is lost, look at what is gained in terms of the consolidation of the memories of those people. And that, in fact, I would say Viktor Frankl was a survivor of the Nazi regime Holocaust. And he writes a book, Man's Search for Meaning. And in that he posits that people survive trauma and tragic situations because of the meaning they attach to those situations. So give the meaning, define the meaning in an empowering way of that experience, of that tragedy. Loss of the job, you're grieving the loss of a job, you're grieving the loss of a loved one, you're grieving the loss of relationships, you're grieving the loss, but what is the meaning? If you give it a positive meaning, if you name it in an empowering way, in a light way, for example, if I don't have money, I would see as I'm broke, but I would easily say I'm temporarily out of cash. That's an empowering approach, all right? Rather than say I've been retrenched, because really, if you say you're retrenched, it means you are in a trench before, you are taken out, then you've been returned to a trench. It can't be that bad. Before that job, you still were alive. So you can easily say, I've been redesignated, I've been given an opportunity to look for you don't say I was working for this company, you say I was working with this company. In other words, you are a consultant. So it's the company's loss, not your loss, you know. And so I'm saying just name it in ways that gives you a way to see yourself having a chance
All right.
to carry it on with you forward.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the Reverend coming out.
Thank you.
Quite strongly there.
Yeah.
And very hopeful ways of ending this year. We're having reflections from Reverend Joseph Obwanda. And stay with us. We're taking a short break. This is Spotlight here on Hope TV, where you look and live. Viewer, welcome back. This is Spotlight on Hope TV, where you look and live, and we are having reflections that guide us, that will help us as we process the year that it's just about to pass, and this is the year 2021. It's been an interesting kind of year in many ways, and we are happy to have Reverend Joseph Obwanda, who is the man behind the Become Your Excellency movement. Just taking us through good points that can help us process the end of year in a good way. Now, we talked about sobriety, right? And that's coming out very strongly, that be sober, which is really countercultural in terms of the way people look, really do the end of year with lots of wild living, and some end up even in debt, trying to fit in. But let's bring a particular category of people here also. Big in our culture here and also in the world is marriage, finding love, right? And some people are feeling this is the year when they need to find love.
Right.
Or they felt this is the year that I need to get my mate, this is the year I'll be engaged, or this is the year that I'll finally find the right one.
Right.
And maybe even this is the year I'll be married. Right?
Yeah.
But the end of the year has come, and still the wall is as blank as it began.
Right.
This is an issue that sometimes somebody is wondering how to process, because it's a cloud over lots of other things.
And I empathize with that, because relationships are a big part of our realities in life. And we were created to relate. We were created not to be alone. God said it's not good. So if God said it's not good, he's still aware that it's not good, that one is alone. However, when you say people are looking for love, are looking for a mate, to me, I think that's a big challenge, and it's already a wrong footing. People look for a wife, people look for a husband, but they don't look for that. For example, if you're looking for a husband, have you looked for a wife in you? Okay, let's say there are those who are. I guess what I'm saying here is that do not externalize your life. Don't live life on the basis of circumstances and people and individuals who have to make decisions and you can't control. You can't force somebody to be a wife. You can't force somebody to be a husband, all right? But you can force yourself to be a wife in waiting, a husband in waiting. It becomes the other person's loss if they don't identify you in the right time. So let's say you keep the power and you don't feel a victim. You don't feel you are soliciting for sympathy, and you also don't feel like you are on the loss frequency. Because if you do that, if you feel like you're on the loss frequency, time is running out, biological time is running out, Mr. Wrong is not coming your way, Miss Right is not coming your way, your relationships are breaking up, or I call it redefined, not breaking up, and you suddenly find that you are desperate. And when you get desperate, you end up making decisions that you would otherwise not have made. And I guess then what I'm saying is that this is a lifelong reality that cannot be staked on a small period of 12 months, right? These are things you don't pigeonhole into this year. Of course, it's good to have timelines, but you got your life. You're still alive. You're a potential wife. You're a potential husband to the extent that you're still alive. Because even if you worry now that even if you worry that you are not married now, does it stop you from being marriageable? So my thinking is that for those who feel like they have not gotten the right person, it does not make you the wrong person. Those who have not gotten married does not mean you will not get married. The question you need to ask yourself, why have you not gotten married? If you have not gotten married because you've made the choice not to get married, it is commendable. But if you get married because people have pressured you and you are targeting this year, you want to get married, you are disadvantaged because you suddenly realize you get what you want and you don't want what you got. It's called success lacuna. Success lacuna is when you are pursuing something so badly, you're saying, I can't wait to get it. But no sooner than you get it, then you realize what was the big deal. Like you wanted a big car or a big house. You wanted to be loved by somebody. Then they loved you and the way you are aspiring. Then you just realize such a counter climax. So there's no fantasy about this. Take it as it is and live your life. I think also the big thing is to note that you are living for a purpose. And if marriage is a purpose to live for, then the scriptures are very clear. Ecclesiastes 3:1. And there is a time for every purpose. If something is purpose, it has time. If it is purpose, it has time. If it's not purpose, then don't force it. It will not come. If the same Ecclesiastes 3 says, he makes all things beautiful in its time. Not in his time, the way we've sung it before. Every time is God's time. But he chooses when to make things beautiful in those things' time. It's, for example, a lady who has gotten pregnant in the context of marriage, all right? They feel very proud about their bulging tummy and they move around and they're greeting people and they're taking selfies because that came within the right time. So there's beauty in that. But one who has had pregnancy outside of marriage, out of desperation or out of unguardedness, they start feeling embarrassed, stigmatized. And why? Because there's no beauty in that because time has not beautified it. So I guess what I'm saying here is even in marriage, there's nothing as beautiful as getting married at the right time, which God has beautified that marriage with time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of wisdom to get from that. Reverend, some people have had some great chances, but they blew them. Some people have done things with their eyes wide open. They regret them.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the year, it's a time of lost opportunities. I was right there.
Yeah.
I was in the moment.
Yeah.
I blew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't believe that I did what I did.
Yeah.
Yet I did it myself.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult time of processing regret. There's a lot of shaking of heads.
Yeah.
Like I can't believe it.
Yeah.
How do you resuscitate yourself if you're in that kind of situation?
I mean, I'll tell you, congratulations. Congratulations. Why? Because now you have, we'll put it this way, you have enlisted yourself into the university of, you are becoming a graduate, because in pain and in mistakes, there's loaded and concentrated knowledge and wisdom. So don't let an experience be wasted on you. That's what I was taught when I was young. Never let any experience, positive or negative, be wasted. Learn from it. And because hardly, Rev, would anybody say, I've learned a lesson and remain the same. It's supposed that once you say, I've learned a lesson, you have become better. So you have gone through that and you have lived to tell the story. Congratulations. Now, you need to demonstrate that you deserve that experience. That experience is not wasted on you. Look at what scriptures say. That no temptation has taken you but such as is common. But God is faithful, will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able to bear, but with every temptation make a way of escape. To say that there's nothing you've gone through that somebody has not gone through. Every temptation is common to man. So don't be hard on yourself. Learn from it. Then don't commonize, don't Don't specialize it. Don't say, why me? Because regret connotes that you feel you are exceptional. You are the inventor of that experience. No, no temptation taking you, but that such is common. So commonize it. Those who suffer from sore throat don't get better by talking to many people about it, right? So don't, as someone said, don't rehearse it, don't curse it, don't nurse it, just reverse it, right? Take the lessons from it, I guess what I'm saying. And then look at the fact that even out of that bad experience, there's a positive thing.
All right.
Pick that. That becomes probably what you needed to get from it, and that makes you a graduate to the next level. So as to say that you don't let that thing identify you. If you have, say, you have lost a job, okay? Don't call yourself a jobless. It's just you are somebody who lost a job. It's not, you're not jobless. Your experiences don't define you, okay? Because there are many times people want to allow their experiences to be who they are. If you are living with a condition, you are just a human being happening to be living with a condition. If you don't have money, you are not poor. You just happen to be somebody who don't have the resources at that point in time, all right? So the idea is don't let your experiences define you.
All right.
Yeah.
You know,
and I talk much about that in my book, Becoming Excellency. I've lived in the most quality environments, but I decided I can be in a mess, but out of the mess, I can become a message.
Okay.
And that's it.
Yeah, your positivity, your optimism is definitely a very great asset. That everyone who's listening to this will just come out of it with it as a great lesson. And you know, we've talked about spirituality here and there. We talked about God.
Yeah.
Now, the year 2021 began with pronouncements from pastors.
Yes.
No, this is your year. You know.
They should refund offerings.
This is your year. This is the things that are just going to turn around. And somebody hung on to that. And they did all that the pastor said they should do. But then here comes, and they gave timelines. This is the year.
Yes.
They didn't talk about the year of the Lord's favor, which could be so many. You talk about this 2021.
Yes.
And now they have invested so much, and they have clung on every promise, and they have given every tithe and every offering, and they have been to every meeting. And then the end of the year has come, but there's nothing the size of a cloud. You know, nothing the size of a cloud. And in your relationship with God, I mean, you almost begin now to ask yourself, am I believing wrongly? Do I have the right kind of faith? And sometimes people might start even to disengage from God because of that kind of expectation. Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, and we, the clergy, are in the business of making proclamations, right? Allow me to say that, one, there are proclamations that are made, which the purpose of proclamations, the year proclamations, even weekly proclamations in terms of sermons, because it's just, I mean, what is said for the year can as well be what is said in a sermon, right? The idea is that it's supposed to be directional. It's supposed to be providing a framework upon which we can exercise intelligent faith. We call it prophetic word, all right? Now, that is not actualized the way we expected at the time we expected does not make it obsolete and does not make it a lie. Truth has no shelf life, right? It is truth. It will happen. How do we align with it? How do we participate in that truth? How do we allow it to demand on our lifestyle? That is our part, all right? Faith is our part. Revelation is God's part. He gives us the revelation. We work with that revelation to build our faith on it. Now, I hold the view then that whatever has been stated, we still have that as a raw material to keep working with. And we can get to faith crisis, as you have said. when we want God to respond and things to happen on our terms, right? Yet, God is not obligated, because the questions that we ask God at times is as if we want to get God into an argument. But in humility, we accept what God has said, we exercise our faith in it, and as I said, these faith matters have no shelf life. Jesus is coming soon. He's coming soon. It's been 3,000 years. Is he not coming? He's still coming, right? This is to say that that statement, that prophetic declaration ought to allow ourselves to live in a certain way, to organize our lives in a certain way, and to keep trusting in God in a way that demands on our lifestyle. That's how I look at it. So that one need not to get into faith crisis, except that you have your own strong biases and terms in which you expect God to align to, which will be really arrogance. Yeah.
Okay. In the midst of lots of complications that have been in the year, as we talk about external complications, there are people who've had the best year yet.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
They've had a fantastic year and they can't believe it.
Yeah.
So there are hallelujahs at one point.
Yeah.
But sometimes you want just maybe tone them down a little bit,
Right.
because you know that it's been not so for many others.
Yes.
And how do you then manage this hallelujah in the midst of people who have in other ways not been so blessed or successful?
Absolutely. I mean, and I think what you're talking to is the need for being considerate. Allow me to bring in Romans, I think, 14, where Paul says that if you have to eat your meat in a way that it does not, I'm just paraphrasing it, don't let somebody be offended because of meat, and in other words, don't rub your victories on people's faces. Even when you give testimony, somebody has been struggling to get a child. All right? God has blessed you with a child. It somewhat needs wisdom for you to celebrate your child when in the presence of the person who's really been struggling on that. You finished college, you just got a job, employed, and then you meet your relative who has been struggling for years looking for a job. This is to say, whatever testimony you have, relevance and the blessings you have, the relevance of the blessings, you talking about them and you managing them needs to be in perspective. And the big word, I think, would be stewardship, right? So that you start remembering that if there's water flowing in the pipe, it's so that it can move to the field, it can move to the garden, so that it can water the garden, right? So that you do not hoard resources, you do not become arrogant, you do not become self-conceited, and then you forget that the reason why you are blessed is so that you can be a blessing. In fact, you cannot say you're blessed until somebody is blessed. Blessing cannot be private. Blessing is public. God's curriculum for blessings, Genesis 12:2, told Abraham, I will bless you and you will be a blessing. Now, today, people think that you are blessed because of what you've received. On the contrary, the proof that you are blessed is because of what you can give. Right? If I am blessed with a job, it means that that job has capacity to make an impact in other people's situations, my family and others. So if you're a billionaire, and we're not talking about any other qualification of those billionaires, and truly it's a blessing, the blessings of God make rich, and he adds no sorrow to you and to anybody else. You cannot say by any dint of imagination that you are blessed, and whatever you're calling a blessing itself is a source of acrimony, division. You've gotten a promotion or a good car. If those are blessings, for me, I think those are materialistic, really. They cannot qualify as blessings. But the point is, those things, whatever you call a blessing, should become a resource by which you become a better you become a better person for others. So I guess my message is, as you're celebrating this year, God has turned out about your situations. Celebrate it in humility, in modesty, in consideration. And in fact, you should be even the more blessed, more humble, because you have a greater burden of responsibility, because to them that much is given, much is required.
Which is an important point.
Yes.
When we're looking back.
Yes.
Because it's been a year when many people have been in need in the society. At the same time, there are those who have been endowed.
Yes.
And looking at our society, just
Yes.
looking at our Kenyan community, how have we behaved ourselves as a community? Have we been, can you say that as Kenyans we are a generous community? Can you say that we've been a caring community? Especially because this year has also been a time when there have been many people who have needed different ways. So how would you analyze us as a community when it comes to caring for one another?
Overall, let me start by saying, overall, there's that, I wouldn't call it stereotype, but there's that whole presupposition of who Kenyans are. We are hospitable, we are resilient, and we say many good things about Kenyans. But those things are not exceptional to Kenyans. They can be said about anybody out there. The point I'm driving at is that whereas we may want to say certain things are about Kenyans, it's a lie. In fact, Kenya is a lie, right?
Okay.
Kenya is a lie because Kenya is an individual. There's nothing Kenya. There's a Kenyan. So it's me, and then we, and then you. So every one of us, individual responsibility, make Kenya. But Kenya as a whole, as a community, it's a stretch of imagination, because now we get to realize that it's about individual. The president takes responsibility, so he is Kenyan. So every Kenyan doing what every Kenyan must do then makes Kenya. But just like, for example, let me stretch it further and say, for example, you hear people say, men are like this. Men is a lie. There is no men. Which man? Youths are like this. Which youth? Schools are burning. Which school? Churches, which church? Pastors, which pastor? Kenya, which Kenyan? So until we learn individual personal responsibility, then the whole thing about our sovereignty and our unity and our community, because community is common things shared in unity. What is common between me and you? What are our values? We get back to that. What are the individual values? What are the individual principles? There are those national principles and values that are spoken in chapter 10 of the Constitution. But those things, so long as they are general and individuals are not subscribing to them, will live a lie. So we are going to an election season, and yet there are people who are supposed to be Kenyans, okay, or Kenya is supposed to be happening in a particular way, but individuals who make Kenya are not taking responsibilities. So I'm suggesting that if you talk to me about that doctor that is working hard under very strenuous circumstances to provide health care, that is Kenyan. If you talk to me about that pastor that is now not stopping his pastoral responsibility because the offerings have diminished, that is a Kenyan. If you talk to me about that youth that stopped the other student from burning the school, that is a Kenyan. If you talk to me about that parent that is aware of where the child spends most of the hours when they are out at work, and the child did not take a flight with somebody to Malindi in the morning to go and do illicit things and then come back in the evening, and that parent is aware of where that child is, to me that's Kenyan. So I'm saying let's not generalize, because too much generality makes a lot of things fall between. So we start blaming. So when you see what's happening in the schools, it's not schools, it's a school.
It's a particular, there's a particular,
Yes.
right.
And that's what I think we focus on, then that way we can start defining Kenya.
All right. And we are very thankful to those
Yeah.
Kenyans
Absolutely.
in the year who have been very kind. They have extended their
Yeah.
wealth.
Yes,
They've extended what they have, sometimes not out of abundance.
absolutely.
And just to show love and kindness
Yeah.
to others. We appreciate every Kenyan who has taken some time
Yeah.
to think about another.
Yes.
And they may not have made it to newspaper headlines or TV stations,
Yeah.
but they did something that made a difference in the lives of others. And
You know, that's why the organization that we run, Heshimika Foundation, we train people to be individually responsible. Heshimika. Then the third line of the third stanza of our national anthem sings, Kenya istahili heshima. Kenya haiwezi kustahili heshima ikiwa kama wewe kama Mkenya hauheshimiki. Some of the waheshimiwa are waishiwa. They are bankrupt of values.
Yeah.
So they are not Kenya. A Kenyan is the one who anaheshimika. Become an excellency at your personal level. You are an excellency in media matters, and I salute you, brother. All right? The president is excellency politically to the extent that you are holding yourself responsible to high standards and values.
Okay.
So the motto is, if it is to be, it is up to me.
Okay.
2 10-lettered miracle words. If it is to be, it is up to me.
All right.
The disease in Kenya today is called sky disease. Sio kazi yangu. Sky is an acronym for sio kazi yangu. And that is, so I agree with you. We must celebrate individual efforts and individual responsibility.
All right.
That's what counts.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Reverend, and the reflections you've given us. Lots of wisdom.
Thank you for the time. Thank you.
And just because this is that time of the year, it's just right for us you
Yeah,
know, to
absolutely.
just thank God. And I would invite you to look right into that camera
Yeah.
and just say a prayer
Yeah.
in thankfulness to God
Indeed.
for the year 2021.
Absolutely.
Just go ahead.
Thank you, Reverend Furi. Fellow Kenyans, I want to encourage you that as we come to the end of the year, I know the last 2 years has been very challenging for us. However, the Word of God assures us in Joel 2:25 that the year that the cankerworm, the palmerworm, the locust, the caterpillar has eaten, the Lord will restore. So I know some of us are not counting 2020. That year may have been eaten by the pandemic, or this 2021, things have not gone as we expected. However, let's remain optimistic. Let's remain captives of hope. Let's not give up. Let's keep living responsibly. Let's keep living truly. Let's keep loving deeply. Let's keep serving greatly. Because for whilst we are alive, we have the responsibility to honor and to glorify God. I wish you the best as you end this year soberly and as you prepare for the new year intentionally. May God bless you. I salute Your Excellency, Heshimika. Thank you very much.
Amen. Amen. Thank you again. We praise the Lord through it all.
Amen.
And we are thankful for the year 2021. And we are also appreciative for all of you who have been part of Spotlight, encouraging us. You've been part of Spotlight, giving us feedback. And you've been part of Spotlight in a very grand way. We appreciate you very, very much. And overall, we say, hallelujah, praise be to God.
Amen.